happened 5.5 years ago, back in May of '86, when I fell asleep driving. Didn't have a seatbelt on. I was thrown from the car, broke my neck, severing my spinal cord.
I was injured in a competition at the beach, in a junior lifeguard competition.
Shock.
I was in college when my injury happened.
Disbelief. Not really wanting to know the truth.
They asked me if I could feel my legs, and I said no, I couldn't, or move my legs, and I said no, I couldn't.
It was really scary, really scary.
I believe they worded it that I'd probably never walk again.
It was really hard on my parents.
You know, everything just went numb.
No, not that's not what happened to us, but it did.
You know, I'd seen people in wheelchairs before, but that's about as much as I knew about being paralyzed.
I wasn't very informed. I never experienced, you know, anything like paralysis. You know, when your foot falls asleep, maybe.
I had to learn to ask people for things that I just never would ask before. When I was first injured, I didn't realize my nose itched that much, but till I couldn't scratch it.
Gee whiz, I was 20 years old, I just turned 20 years old, and I suddenly found myself with a bottom half that acted like a baby, and I had absolutely no idea what to do with myself, and basically didn't have a clue about what life after spinal cord injury was going to be about.
Well, it was pretty devastating, I think, to think about spending the rest of your life in a wheelchair and wondering what your options were going to be. And it was, you know, a completely different change in lifestyle, absolutely.
After my injury, I realized how sensitive and what the spinal cord is actually like. It's just like, you know, tofu. It's just jelly, and any little damage could mean a big loss of function and paralysis, a lot of paralysis.
Well, it really was quite a change because I'm unable to move from the neck down. I depend on a respirator to breathe for me.
At the first, when you're first hurt, things seem really difficult. The simplest things seem really, really hard. You wonder when you're going through rehab how you're ever going to get your chair in the car.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of things that you can do. I guess you just have to do them differently. You have to learn how to adapt and do them differently. Like driving, taking a shower, going to the bathroom, things like that.
That and the total change, you know, you think your kids are getting up there and they'll be graduating and being on their own pretty soon, and that's your time, you know, and that's kind of taken away.
The golden years are what you expected.
Right. Yeah. Early retirement.
I had no idea of the ramifications. I didn't want to know even while I was in the bed. You know, I was totally glib about it. I told my mom I was going to win the Junior Nationals Nordic Cross Country Championship. This was about May. I'd been lying down in this bed with absolutely no movement, no feeling for about 4 months. I mean, it was big time denial.
And breathe! Woo!
A spinal cord injury will cause dramatic change in anyone. But it's important to realize that you are not alone and that life is not over. Over 8,000 spinal cord injuries occur in the United States every year. So many, many thousands of injured people and their families are now living proof that spinal cord injury is not the end of life. Life with a spinal cord injury can be rewarding, fulfilling, and good. The spinal cord can be thought of as an extension of the brain. It carries the motor signals the brain sends out to all parts of the body, and also the sensory signals the body sends back to the brain. The spinal cord is protected by the bones or vertebra, which make up the backbone. Fractures of these bones heal well and completely, but the underlying injuries to the spinal cord itself do not heal. It's important to understand that a bruise to the spinal cord is quite different from a bruise to the skin. Most skin bruises heal in a short time. When the spinal cord is bruised or damaged, the blood supply to the nerve tissue is interrupted, and nerve cells then die. When this occurs, the spinal cord can no longer transmit messages between the brain and the rest of the body, and permanent paralysis is likely to result.
85 to 90% of my body is paralyzed, at least. From a bruise that anywhere else on the body you probably wouldn't even feel. I mean, what's so special about having a bruise on the most protected part of your body?
No, it was not severed. My spinal cord is still intact, so it was just pressure on the nerves.
My spinal cord wasn't severed, but it was bruised.
I'm an incomplete injury. I have some function below my injury, and I have sensation, so it wasn't that severe, but it was enough damage to do away with a lot of my function.
The level of injury is the main determinant of what kind of paralysis each person has. People with the highest injuries generally have the most loss of function, usually with paralysis of all 4 limbs, loss of sensation in most of the body, and even an impairment of breathing. The medical term for this condition is quadriplegia.
I have regular sensation to my shoulders, and then it dulls to my elbows until there's nothing there. I don't have any feeling in my fingertips or hands. I have developed a bicep muscle here that I can use this arm, and I have shoulder movement. But nothing else. I'm not in control of anything else.
People whose injuries are lower on the spinal cord, roughly speaking below the level of the shoulders, often have paralysis with loss of sensation in the legs and some trunk instability. However, their arms are unaffected. This is called paraplegia. The parts and functions of the body which are located above the point of injury will continue to function unimpaired. The parts and functions which are below the point of injury, however, cannot function in their normal way. And in the case of incomplete injuries, in which not all the nerves have been damaged, no generalizations are valid. 2 people can have very different results from injuries at the same levels.
It's different for everybody. You could have the same level of injury, C6, C7, and some person is more mobile, has more movement, more feeling, and other people with the same injury might have less.
6 months after I was paralyzed, I started getting return. So I do have quite a bit of strength in my left leg, quite a bit of motor return in my left leg.
The spinal cord is divided into 4 regions. The cervical region refers to the neck, the thoracic region to the chest, the lumbar to the lower back, and the sacral to the tailbone. To describe different levels of injury, doctors combine a letter denoting the region of the spine and a number indicating the position of the injured spinal cord segment within that region. Thus, they will refer to C6, meaning the 6th segment of the cervical region, T8, meaning the 8th segment in the thoracic region, L1, meaning the 1st segment in the lumbar region, and so on. In general, injuries to the sacral region result in impaired bladder, bowel, and sexual function, while injuries to the lumbar region will impair the same functions, including the leg muscles and the ability to walk. Chest or thoracic region injuries involve those functions with additional impairment of abdominal, trunk, and rib cage musculature, reducing trunk control and the ability to cough effectively. And finally, most neck or cervical injuries involve additional impairment of the hands and arms, and sometimes of the diaphragm, the breathing muscle. The autonomic nervous system is also interrupted, which can affect blood pressure, pulse, body temperature, and digestion, creating problems such as hyperreflexia. Some people with thoracic injuries will also have some interruption of the autonomic nervous system.
With anything involving disability, I think if you think it through and do your planning and problem solving, if you're a good problem solver, I really believe you can do about anything you want to do. If you're not a good problem solver, anything's going to be difficult.
It certainly has humanized me a lot, being in a wheelchair, and made me realize what is important, and having legs, while they certainly are very convenient, aren't necessarily the end-all be-all to the existence.
I have a good life. I really do. I can't do some of the things I want to do, but not everybody gets to do what they want to do all the time.
Well, our favorite pastime seems to be go out to eat, which we do a few times a week.
And then I have a helmet on and knee pads and full bike gear and bike shoes. And he puts my feet in the toe clips of the bicycle. And then we take off, and here we are going 20 miles an hour down the street, and I can't even walk, but I'm on this bicycle.
Went hot air ballooning, horseback riding, water rafting, water skiing, camping, fishing. There's only a few things I can think of that you can't actually do.
Whatever your injury, try to bear in mind that at Craig there is a wealth of knowledge that can help you. A key part of making the most of your stay here is to communicate with those around you. Your doctors, your team members, your family and friends, and especially other people with spinal cord injuries. Become as knowledgeable about your condition as you can, because that knowledge will keep you free of unnecessary complications. Remember that living with a spinal cord injury doesn't have to only be a negative experience. It can have a positive side depending on what you make of it. So let Craig Hospital help you to improve the quality of your life.
Considering those, I think I have a fairly good quality of life.
It certainly seems that way.
Yeah, Beth could comment about her quality of life.
So how is it?
It's fine. I have him. That's the most important part. He has his brain. It would have been hard if he didn't, you know, and I have him. So it's very good. We don't let him feel sorry for himself.
Yeah, that's probably the main thing, right?
He's just got a good attitude. Anything goes, try it. If you don't like it, change it. And it's a great attitude to live by. And I like waking up with somebody who wakes up and is happy to be alive and try some new things, take on the possibilities.
Walking isn't the most important. The most important is probably to be as productive as you can, to make yourself as nice a person, I guess, as you can.
Try not to worry so much about what other people are going to think of you, how they're going to feel around you. Because if you have a positive attitude and you're comfortable with your injury, that'll make everybody else around you comfortable.
I miss the physical things, and but I'm learning to adapt. I mean, I have a daughter I've never been able to hug since she's been able to talk, and I can kind of hug her, and she understands that now. But that's the real hard part.
Because the kids at school ask questions. She just finished 2nd grade, you know, about why is your mom in a wheelchair? And I asked her, going to school one day, I said, does it bother you that I'm in a wheelchair? And she gave me the funniest look, very quizzically, and she said, no, should it? And I thought, well, that's the issue. And she doesn't see me as being any different from her girlfriend's mom.
It's not all bad. The parking's great. Skiing for free is fine.
You know, you get a pair of shoes they're never going to wear out. And,
the joy of paralysis, parking, and being sent to the front of lines, getting front seats at concerts and shows. People seem to be a lot nicer to people in wheelchairs too.
I suppose that's true. Do you like that, or do you resent it? Is it patronizing?
I just take advantage of it.
Nobody gets paraplegic lessons or quadriplegic lessons. Arm yourself with knowledge. Knowledge is power.
Your personality, from what I've seen, stays the same. The people are the same people that they were before they were hurt.
To be on my own, to be able to produce out in the world, do like any other normal person would, just live.